Forget the usual NFL stories about overcoming injuries or fighting for playing time. The players you're about to see didn't just battle for a roster spot, they battled to survive. Their childhoods were so rough that most people wouldn't have made it through. But when pure grit meets even the smallest crack of opportunity, greatness happens. We'll start at number 10, Tamba Hali. When 6-year-old Tamba heard gunshots in Liberia, it wasn't in a movie or video game. It was right outside his window. The first Liberian civil war had turned his childhood into a nightmare. His father had already escaped to America, but Tamba, his mother, and his siblings were trapped. Then came a moment of both salvation and heartbreak. At just 10 years old, Tamba was granted a visa to America. It was his ticket to safety, but it came at a heartbreaking cost, leaving his mother behind. The night before his flight, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his mind racing. Could he really board that plane, knowing he might never see her again? Landing in Teaneck, New Jersey, Tamba stepped into a world that felt completely foreign. The language was unfamiliar, the customs made no sense. And then there was football, which at the time was a sport he had never seen, let alone played, but adversity had been his teacher since birth. He channeled the resilience that kept him alive in Liberia into athletics. At Penn State, his defensive prowess earned him All-American honors. In 2006, the Kansas City Chiefs made him their first-round pick, seeing in him what war couldn't destroy, an unbreakable spirit. For 12 seasons, Tamba terrorized NFL offenses. His 89.5 career sacks and 6 Pro Bowl selections tell only part of the story. What statistics cannot measure in this hunger behind every quarterback takedown? The same hunger that once helped him escape the war zone. But for all his on-field glory, his greatest victory did not come in the NFL. It came in 2006, after getting U.S. citizenship when he finally brought his mother to America. 12 years of separation, 12 years of phone calls, prayers, and gut-wrenching uncertainty finally over. Now, number 9, Antonio Brown. Tamba escaped the war zone, but not every battle is fought with bullets. Most fans know AB for his drama and controversies, but few realize that during his senior year of high school, he didn't even have a place to stay. For 6 months, Brown slept in cars and crashed on friends' couches after getting kicked out of his house. While future NFL stars were signing scholarships, he was just trying to figure out where he would sleep at night. Growing up in Miami's tough Liberty City neighborhood, chaos wasn't just a word. It was his everyday life. When his mother remarried, Brown's family life fell apart. He doesn't talk much about why he was forced out, but the experience made him grow up quickly. His father, Touchdown Eddie Brown, was a star in the Arena Football League. But fame didn't make him a present dad. Brown doesn't openly blame him for his struggles, but growing up without the father figure made everything harder. School wasn't easy for him either. His grades were trash, blocking his path to college football. So he landed at North Carolina Tech, a prep school where he could keep playing while getting his academic game together. Many players would have given up, but not AB. He showed up at Central Michigan University with no scholarship, just a chance to prove himself as a walk-on. Brown quickly showed what he could do, earned a scholarship, and broke school records. He became Central Michigan's all-time leader in catches and ranked in the top 4 for yards and touchdowns. In the NFL with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he became one of the best receivers the game had ever seen. He broke franchise records, including 1,834 receiving yards in 2015, which was the second highest single-season total in NFL history at the time. Defenders couldn't keep up with him. Quarterbacks trusted him in the biggest moments, and year after year, he dominated. 7 Pro Bowls, 4 first-team All-Pro selections, multiple seasons leading the league in catches and yards. He didn't just make it to the NFL, he took over. But while AB fought to stay off the streets, another player spent nights in homeless shelters wondering if life would ever get easier. Number 8, Najee Harris. When most NFL draft picks hear their name called, they are popping champagne in some fancy green room. Not Najee Harris. He went back to the homeless shelter where he once lived. Harris grew up in Richmond, California, where his family was constantly on the move. It's hard living in California, so we got evicted a lot as a family, said Harris. We bounced around a lot, slept in cars, slept in homeless shelters. Back then, it was more like just surviving the day, getting through the hard times. His mom, Tiana Hicks, worked around the clock to keep food on the table. Words can't describe how much strength she gave me, said Harris. People think strength is muscles and stuff. Strength is what she did, never quitting on us. It was inspiring. I love her for that. She always did her best to help us out. At Antioch High, Football became his sanctuary. The patience in his running mirrored the patience life had forced upon him, waiting for the right moment, then striking. His talent was undeniable, and soon Alabama came calling. In Tuscaloosa, Harris transformed into a force of nature, bulldozing defenders and proving he was built for the biggest stage. By the time the Pittsburgh Steelers called his name in the first round of the NFL draft, he wasn't just running for himself anymore. He was running for every kid who had ever faced homelessness, every child who had ever felt forgotten. So, on draft night 2021, he skipped the glitz and glamour and headed straight to the Greater Richmond Interfaith Program Shelter, the exact same place he once called home. But he didn't stop there. Months later, he brought in Lowe's and over 100 volunteers to completely renovate the shelter. For kids living there now, they've got something Harris never had. Not just a roof, but a real home, and a living example that their current situation doesn't define their future. But while Harris gave back to the shelter that once housed him, some players never even had that kind of refuge. Number 7, Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs doesn't just run the power. He runs like a man who's been fighting for something his whole life, and he was. Long before he became an NFL star, Jacobs and his father Marty were just trying to survive. After his parents split, a custody battle left them with nowhere to go. For weeks, their only home was a maroon Chevy Suburban, parking in different lots across Tulsa every night. I remember seeing him not sleep. Josh later said his father sat in the driver's seat, gun on his lap, staying awake all night to keep him safe. And Josh, he didn't even realize how bad things were. I just thought I was falling asleep and waking up. I didn't think anything about it. I felt safe. Eventually, things got a little better. His siblings moved in, and the family crammed into a tiny 2-bedroom apartment. Football became Josh's escape, but even there it wasn't easy. Despite tearing it up in high school, college recruiters barely noticed him. So he took matters into his own hands. He began posting his highlight tapes on social media, hoping someone would give him a shot. And finally, his persistence paid off. A coach in Texas noticed his tape and encouraged him to keep pushing. That persistence led Alabama to take notice, giving him the chance he had been waiting for. His running style was tough and relentless, just like the way he grew up. That same attitude carried him to the NFL, where he proved his worth as both a running back and a special teams weapon. When the Raiders called his name in the first round of the draft, it wasn't just about football. It was about proving that no matter where you come from, you can change the story. And Josh did just that. After signing his first big contract, he bought his dad a house, making sure the man who once stayed up all night to protect him never had to worry about a place to sleep again. Josh Jacobs' story proves that resilience can't outrun any obstacle. But he's not the only one who had to fight for his dreams. Now number 6, Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham was just 11 years old when his mother drove him to an orphanage and left him there. Graham remembers that day like it was yesterday. It was a new place with many new people who I'd never met, who automatically for some reason didn't like me, Graham said. Confused and desperate, he called her, begged her to come back. She hung up. 9 brutal months followed in the group home, which included being in a backseat of a van with his housemates and being beaten so badly his eyes were swollen shut. When he finally went back to live with his mother, any hope for a normal life quickly disappeared. Her new boyfriend physically abused young Jimmy, layering new trauma onto old wounds. The place that should have been a safe haven became just another battleground. During this chaotic time, Graham started going to a local church. He wasn't there for spiritual guidance. Rather, he was there because they offered free meals once a week. And for a kid living in uncertainty, that was a powerful draw. But what started as just a way to get food would end up changing his entire life. During one church prayer session, Graham opened up about his deepest fear that his mom would abandon him again. This confession touched a church volunteer named Becky Vincent so deeply that she did something extraordinary. Despite struggling herself, she opened up her home to Graham. With this unexpected stability, Graham's natural athletic talent finally had room to grow. He became an amazing basketball player and earned a scholarship to the University of Miami. For 4 years, he dominated on the basketball court with no clue that football would eventually make him famous. In fact, Graham only tried football during his final year at Miami, catching just 17 passes for 213 yards and 5 touchdowns. These numbers gave him no hint at what was coming next. Despite this limited experience, Graham's raw athleticism caught the attention of NFL scouts, The New Orleans Saints picked him in the third round of the 2010 draft, starting one of the most incredible basketball to football transitions ever. It's one of those things where I was determined to hush the critics and show everyone I could do it. I just kept grinding every day, said Graham. Graham quickly became an elite tight end, recording an amazing 86 receptions for 1,215 yards and 16 touchdowns during his standout 2013 season. But while Jimmy Graham got a fresh start, thanks to a stranger's kindness, another NFL star had to fight his own way out of a tough childhood. But first, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more NFL deep dives like this. Thank you. Now, back to our list. Number 5, Dez Bryant. Ever wonder what it's like growing up with a mom who's basically still a kid herself and sells drugs to get by? But Dez Bryant? That wasn't some hypothetical question. Dez's mom, Angela, was just 15 when she had him. With no real way to support her family, she started selling crack to make money. That meant little Dez grew up around drug deals and addicts, seeing things no kid should ever have to see. Home life was a mess. When Dez was 9, Angela got locked up for a year and a half on drug charges. With no one really watching over him, Dez and his siblings were pretty much on their own. As he put it, we just did whatever the hell we wanted to do. Luckily, all Bryant had ever wanted to do was have a football in his hands. But his start in this sport wasn't exactly your typical Little League story. He found an abandoned trailer in his neighborhood with some football gear inside. Shoulder pads and a helmet that happened to fit him. He took them, later admitting it wasn't exactly the right thing to do, but it was the beginning of something big. At Oklahoma State, he became one of college football's most dominant receivers, earning All-American honors in 2008. His playing style, physical, aggressive, fearless, mirrored the way he had fought through life. That same energy followed him into the NFL, where he played like every catch mattered, because to him, it did. He brought the hunger of his past into every game, making acrobatic catches and racking up touchdowns. His fiery personality wasn't just emotion, it was the battle scars of a childhood spent fighting for something better. Now, number 4, Lamar Jackson. 2005, when he was just 8 years old, he lost both his father and grandmother on the same day. Some reports say his dad died in a car accident, others say it was a heart attack. But either way, it was a moment that changed everything. Growing up in Pompano Beach, Florida, Jackson's world wasn't built for excuses. His mom, Felicia Jones, didn't just raise him, she trained him. She tackled him in their yard during practice drills and had him run to Walmart for conditioning. To help him build his endurance, he and his mom would run together every day, regardless of the weather. I've never played in a football game that was more tiring than those long runs on that bridge, he said. But the real test came later, when NFL scouts told him he wasn't built to play quarterback. They wanted him to switch positions, but that was never an option in his mind. His mom made sure he believed in himself long before anyone else did. What some called arrogance was really just years of knowing he had to prove people wrong. Louisville, he put on a show, winning the Heisman Trophy in 2016. And when he hit the NFL, he kept proving the doubters wrong. By 2019, at just 23 years old, he was named MVP, solidifying his place as one of the most electrifying quarterbacks the league had ever seen. From losing everything to becoming everything, Lamar Jackson's story is a masterclass in turning pain into power. Now, number 3, Michael Oher. Like Jackson, Michael Oher's journey was anything but easy. But while Hollywood tried to tell a story, the reality was far more complicated. Born in Memphis, Tennessee, Oher was one of 12 kids. His mother, Denise Oher, struggled with addiction, and his father, Michael Jerome Williams Sr., spent most of his life in and out of prison before being murdered while Oher was in high school. With no real parental guidance, he had to figure things out on his own. So he bounced between foster homes, stayed with friends, and sometimes had nowhere to go at all. School wasn't much better. By the time he was a teenager, he had attended more than a dozen schools and was way behind academically. But things changed when he got into Briarcrest Christian School. That's when he met the Toohey family. Sean and Leanne Toohey saw something in him and welcomed him into their home. For the first time, he had stability. They helped him with school, set him up with tutors, and made sure he had the support he needed to qualify for a Division I scholarship. At Ole Miss, he became an All-American offensive lineman, protecting his quarterbacks with the same determination that had helped him survive growing up. In 2009, he made it to the NFL as a first-round draft pick for the Baltimore Ravens. A few years later, he won a Super Bowl with the team in 2013. Then came the blind side. Hollywood turned his story into a blockbuster, introducing millions of people to his journey. While the movie dramatized certain aspects of his life, Oher's real success came from his relentless work ethic and determination to succeed. Like Oher and the players before, another NFL great overcame challenging beginnings before making his mark on the game, though with a very different personality and path to stardom. Number 2, Terrell Owens. Growing up in Alexander City, Alabama, T.O. was raised by his mom, Marilyn, and his no-nonsense grandmother, Alice, who wouldn't let him play sports at first. His childhood wasn't just tough because of discipline, he also faced some real emotional blows. One of the biggest shocks of his life came at 12 years old. He had a crush on a girl across the street, only to find out she was actually his half-sister. And the man living at that house, his father. That moment hit like a truck, adding to the feelings of rejection that followed him through his early years. Despite the struggles, Owens found ways to express himself. In 1984, he even won a local Michael Jackson lookalike contest, having nailed the King of Pop's signature moves. It was one of the first times he felt a real sense of confidence and would later fuel his larger-than-life presence on the football field. At Benjamin Russell High School, Owens played multiple sports, but he wasn't an instant football star. He was so raw as an athlete that he didn't even start for his team until junior year. Still, he worked his way onto the radar of the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, where he made his name for himself as a sophomore by catching 39 passes for 724 yards and 8 touchdowns. Even after proving himself in college, Owens wasn't seen as a top NFL prospect. The San Francisco 49ers took him in the 3rd round of the 1996 NFL Draft, a clear sign that scouts still doubted him, but that only added to the chip on his shoulder. Over the next 15 seasons, he established himself as one of the greatest receivers in NFL history, ranking 3rd of all time in receiving yards, 15,934, and 153 touchdowns. Decades later, another unlikely success story was in the making, this time with 2 brothers up against even bigger odds. Now, number 1, Chase and Sydney Brown. Growing up in London, Ontario, Chase and Sydney bounced between shelters and temporary housing with their little sister, while their single mom, Rachel, fought illness and poverty. By the time they hit their teens, they had moved nearly 20 times. Some nights, there was no guarantee of bed or even a meal. Football became their lifeline in hockey-crazed Ontario. Brothers showed raw talent, but opportunities were nowhere to be found. Our goals were to play college football, but we didn't know how we were going to get there, Chase said. Then came a turning point at 16. Florida football program wanted them, but it came at a cost. To chase their dream, they had to move over 1,300 miles away from their struggling mom and live with a family they had never met. It broke Rachel's heart to let them go, but she knew it was their best shot at a future. For the twins, Florida was like a whole new world. The coaching was better, the competition was tougher, and the level of football was unlike anything they had ever seen before. They had to fight for everything, but they had each other, and that made all the difference. At the University of Illinois, something clicked. Chase exploded onto the scene as one of the top running backs in the country. He racked up 1,643 rushing yards in 2022, the second most in the nation. Week after week, he torched defenses, running for over 100 yards in 10 different games. By the end of the season, he was a Doak Walker Award finalist and earned second-team All-Big Ten honors. Then in December, he took home the John Cornish Trophy, officially recognized as the best Canadian player in college football. Sydney, on the other hand, made just as much of an impact on the other side of the ball. Illinois had the number 1 ranked defense in the country for most of the season, and he was a huge reason why. He led the nation with 6 interceptions, racked up 59 tackles, and even scored twice in the regular season final against Northwestern. By the end of the year, he was a first-team All-Big Ten selection and one of the most feared safeties in the game. Then came the moment they dreamed of since they were kids, the 2023 NFL Draft. Not one, but both brothers got the call. Chase to the Cincinnati Bengals, Sydney to the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a heartwarming ending to their life of struggle and the beginning of their new life of NFL greatness. So which player's story hit you the hardest? Are there any other NFL players you had a similar Cinderella story? Let us know in the comments, and if you're craving more NFL stories that go beyond the highlights, hit that subscribe button and tune in for more captivating content added weekly. See you in the next one.